Hey you beautiful people, if this is the first video you've watched on my channel, I upload videos every Saturday about Photoshop, Lightroom, Premiere Pro, and hopefully in the future I will start doing camera and gear reviews and maybe unboxings, but we'll see how it goes. In today's video, I'm going to show you one of my personal favorite techniques to dodge and burn in Photoshop. I am actually going to create a few dodge and burn videos using this image to show you a couple of different techniques. At the end of the day, what you use is totally up to you, and that's the beauty about Photoshop. I find using a combination of these techniques, depending on the image, works really well to create a really dramatic effect. So let's not waste any time, let's get straight into it. Very quickly, before I get into what dodging and burning is, I want to take a moment to say thank you to a very cool photographer. I had the pleasure of meeting him on Reddit. His name is Pollard. You can check his stuff out at his Instagram, which I will link down below in the description. Do yourself a favor, guys, check this guy out. Really he makes some amazing pictures. Wow, the English are very difficult right now. He takes some incredible photographs, and definitely worth checking this guy out. On to explaining what dodging and burning is. Dodging and burning is a really old technique. It's been around for as long as photography has, and though it has changed a little bit in how we do it, the fundamental concept of dodging and burning remains the same. All you're doing when you're dodging and burning is you are lightening or darkening an image selectively to enhance the overall contrast and depth of that image. So you make the image pop and stand out more by giving it more dimension. If I quickly create a new layer and fill it with gray, just fill it with a nice gray. If I take white, alright, and a gigantic brush just to demonstrate kind of what I'm talking about. Alright, drop the flow down and I put something there, okay? Then I take black, let's just press D for that, and on the opposite end I darken. Okay, you can see I've created the illusion that there is some sort of shape here. Okay, there's no shape here. Like every time I say the word illusion, I can't help but think of World of Warcraft. An illusion, who goes there? That expansion was ridiculously funny. Alright, but yeah, you get the idea. So I've gone from a gray sort of space to something that almost looks like a sphere, or something is molding itself out of this little random thing that I've drawn, okay? If you had to look at this as dodging and burning, the gray is your image. The white that I colored in with my brush, alright, is where I have dodged the image. I have made the image lighter, alright? The black and the sort of darker gray is where I've taken black on a low flow and I have burned the image, i.e. made it darker. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. Let's get straight into the technique. For the sake of trying not to confuse everybody, including myself, I'm going to give this technique an arbitrary name that I've thumbsucked right now. Let's call this the solid color dodging and burning technique. Okay, that is what we're going to call this. So if you like this technique and you like the video, at least you know, okay, this is that one dodging and burning technique, and then each dodging and burning technique following from this one, I will do my best to come up with some sort of name for it so that you can actually find it, because I think it's so easy to find a really cool technique and never be able to find it again to use in your work. So yeah, guys, let me get straight into showing you how this works. With this image, I have already done frequency separation just for her skin. I've already just removed that one distracting element in the background. Really, this photo did not need much. Okay, it really is a good base image. So let me show you how my solid, what did I call it? Solid color layer dodging and burning thing works. With this technique, we're basically going to use layers of solid colors or tones or hues for the artist purists out there to dodge and burn this image, and I'll show you how we do that. So let's first create a solid color layer. Now you can also create a new layer and fill it with whatever color you want. In fact, I recommend that if you don't think you're going to change the color or anything. For the sake of demo, I'm actually going to use the color layer or colorful layer, just because then I can easily double click and change the color to show you what can be done. We're going to change this color to, let's go a darkish gray to start out with. So this is going to be my burn layer, not burn, baby, burn. Okay. Go to your color mode. Okay, you can also double click, but first we're going to go to the color mode and select soft light. Now you can see that this is having an effect over the entire image. Basically everywhere that isn't a highlight that's too bright, it's making it dark. Now that's not what we want. The beautiful thing about this technique is that you can target very detailed areas, such as her jacket, for example. In fact, I think most of the techniques I show you are useful for detailed areas, with one key step, which I'll show you in a moment. The important thing though is that you decide where this burn layer is going to affect, because here's the thing. The tones running through her hair are not going to be the same as the dark tones running through her jacket. For the sake of this, to demo this really, like how detailed and how insanely awesome this technique is, I'm going to actually dodge and burn her jacket. If we use traditional dodge and burning techniques, that people will tell you a variety of things, but one of the ways is, okay, cool, so you've created this layer, you've changed it to soft light, make the layer mask black, and then just color in where you want this color to come through. Now, sure, that kind of works, except it creates these blocks of darker area, which for something like her jacket, which has really fine detail in it, I think it just destroys that detail. You end up darkening. If I just zoom in here, if I color in, it's impossible for me to get in and actually color in between each hair, because that's actually what we want to do. We want to make that hair pop, right? We want to make it really stand out and jump at you, that it's a really fuzzy, awesomely fluffy jacket. In fact, I wish I had that jacket. It looks so comfortable. That is the way most people explain. However, this, like you've seen now, doesn't deal with the minute details. So let's just delete this layer mask for now. I'm going to double click. You'll see right here next to the image, and we're going to go to the blend if sliders. So in this layer style dialog box that pops up, go to blend if, and we're going to say we only want this to show where the underlying layer is dark. It's darker than the layer that we have on top of it. So we're going to pull this from the side. We're pulling this, and you can actually see how detailed it gets around the hairs. But that looks terrible. That's not how we want it. So hold down Alt click and drag this point away. Now what that does is it smooths out the transition between the darkest areas and the lightest areas. You can choose how much or how little you want this to show. I want it about there. It's good for me, for my purposes. And if we look at the before and after, we can see, if I zoom in here, just how much dimension it's given to areas like this. Okay, do you notice how the hairs really pop and stand out? With the other technique, what happens is that these fine hairs end up getting darkened as well, which is not what we want. Another beautiful thing about this technique is if at any point I'm like, looking at the before after, it's a bit too heavy for me, I just double click, go back into my blend if, and maybe pull it away a bit, and press OK, and I'm like, yeah, that's the right amount of pop in that jacket. Because it's a layer, I can also drop the opacity or the full. Alright, I don't really care which one. To me, they're both the same. Maybe they're not. Who knows? I don't know. Now, if you'll notice, this has darkened everything, but I'm ignoring everything else in this image because I'm focusing on that jacket. The jacket tones are different to everything else, right? Show that. Control I to make that layer mask black. B for my brush tool, just making it a bit bigger with the brackets. And now, instead of spending hours and hours and hours painstakingly coloring in each little section that has a bit of hair on it, I'm actually just going to very quickly color in this jacket, paying careful attention to not go over darker shadowy areas that I do not want to be affected by this layer. And like in zero time, we've just made that jacket look super fuzzy. Now here's where burn comes in. I'm going to create another solid color layer. So click down here, go to solid color. And now I'm not going to select pure white because I think that's a bit too harsh. I'm actually going to select something a little bit away from white. It's like a very, very light pale gray. Same process, we're going to change it down to soft light. Now you might be wondering why I'm choosing soft light as opposed to overlay. Soft light I find doesn't completely blow out areas. Overlay may work on the darker areas, but again, you can mess around with the different color modes. I personally prefer soft light. This is my technique that I use all the time. You can change it up for yourself to make it suit what you need to do. Now here's the beautiful thing. I've already created this layer mask. Why do I need to recolor it? Click on the layer mask, all right? Hold down Alt, click, and drag it to that new layer. It'll ask you if you want to replace it. Say yes. And now we've just duplicated that layer mask to the dodge layer. Let's just rename this to dodge. Same process. I'm going to double click on that layer. But now I don't want this to show in the dark areas. I want it to show in the light areas. In fact, the lightest areas of the fur on her jacket. So I'm going to just pull this from the end as far as I need to until I'm happy, and then hold on Alt and click and drag on the end point just to pull it out even more. Press OK. Then we can look at the before and the after. It's such a subtle effect. In fact, I think it may be too subtle. So if I'm just gonna double click here and just adjust this mask. Press OK. I actually like that. I'm just gonna drop the fill a bit. And we can see if I just hold down Shift, select both of those, Control G to group them. Let's call this jacket DB. If I look at the before and the after, we've just added some dimension to the highlights and shadows of that jacket. These fine details, there's no way you'd be able to color that in. Like it's physically impossible. But if you look at careful little areas like this, we've got a highlight here and a shadow there. Before, what it looks like, and after, how the highlight areas sort of jump out at you. It's a super subtle effect. But here's where it gets more interesting. We've created this jacket dodge and burn, and we can go in and dodge and burn as much as we want all day long. All I have to do, if I want to change the color of something, I want the fur elements to be a little bit more yellowy, orangey, something like that. I want it to look like more of a, I'm thinking of Jon Snow's coat in Game of Thrones. Can't think of a good example right now. But yeah, you can see that just by changing this here, let's just do something extreme so you can see the difference, because the subtle things don't show very nicely on video. Alright, press OK. Before, after, we've added a very slight yellow tinge to the jacket. It also shows us where maybe our mask is missing in some areas. So I'm just going to rectify that really quickly. Alt, click, drag to make sure that the mask is the same for both. We've taken her awesome coat and added some depth to it. We've added a touch of color because we can. Why not? We can go into the shadow area and do exactly the same thing. I want it to be a bit more brown. Okay, deep brown. There we go. So we've not only dodged and burned, we've enhanced some colors in it, because here's the thing. With a natural light photograph, sometimes you can lack depth just due to the nature of the clouds diffusing the light too much. Things don't pop nearly as much. In fact, I'm gonna actually leave that as like a whitish color or a gray. Now here's the thing. Black, white, grey, and all the tones and shades of grey do not have an effect on the color when you use this technique. When you add color or want to add a tinge of color to something, you need to actually be a bit heavy-handed with your toning. So you can see here, if I go all the way up to the brightest yellow, here it looks really, really bright. But on her actual coat, it doesn't look that obnoxiously bright. Okay, so don't be afraid to be a little bit heavy-handed on your coloring if you want to. So you can see before, after on the burn layer, and before, after on the dodge layer. And then these two things combined just really do something awesome to the image. Now that is the core of the first technique. You can create as many or as few of these layers as you want. I've made it a bit heavier than usual just for the sake of demo, but you can see before, after, before, after. It just makes her hair stand out so well. It makes her jacket stand out. And if we like zoom in super close to her hair, you can see on this part of her hair, if we look at the before, all right, pay careful attention to this area. After, these super fine hairs maintain some of their highlight even though we have colored over it with the burn layer. Same thing over here and all around there. So it really does give you a heck of a lot more control over what you can do. Now I'm sure you're asking the $1 million question at this point, but Dasha, what about skin? This technique works beautifully on skin as well. Same thing, solid color, and for now we're just gonna pick a, let's go with a highlight color. Remember, you wanna stay away from 50% gray because 50% gray on soft light doesn't show anything. You don't wanna go too far to white because that's too harsh, and you don't wanna be too close to 50% gray. So I find like a middle ground is quite good. Change it from normal down to soft light, and exactly the same process. We're just gonna bring it down, and I'm ignoring everything but her face. In fact, let's make her lips pop, like super pop. I am not even worried about the rest of her face right now. Control I, B for my brush tool, and suddenly I can make her look like she's wearing lip gloss. But I think she's actually wearing a matte lipstick, but with very little effort. It took me like no time at all. Bam, lip gloss. What if we want to add a color to that lip gloss? No problem, we can, okay? We can make it any color we want to make it. Okay, that is the beautiful thing about this. So before, after. We've not only dodged her lips, we've added color to that highlight to give it something extra, okay, to make it look subtle and not like we just took a soft light layer and colored it in and called it a day. So yeah guys, I hope that clearly demonstrates this technique. Okay, try to label your layers when using this technique because you can sometimes get really absorbed and get a lot of layers and sometimes forget which layer controls what. What's awesome about all of the layers I'm going to show you is that, including this one, is that all of them are non-destructive. So let's say the client comes back to me and says, no, you know what, I actually really like my matte lipstick and I like the color. Why did you change the color? Don't do that. You can just hide this layer or delete it. Done. Lipstick sorted. It's not a mission. You don't have to re-edit the photo. You just find the layer called, let's call it lipstick. Find the layer called lipstick, you remove it, you move on with your life. Okay, let me quickly show you how to deal with skin. So solid color, again, you don't want to add color to skin usually. You want to leave it the way it is. It's called a soft light. I'm just going to add to the highlights in her neck first, okay? Because as you can see, if I deal with the highlights on her face, I have to pull it really far, and her chin, I keep calling it her chin, her neck gets nothing. So let's just enhance some of that neck highlight. Just a smidge, so press OK. Her face looks very bright. We're not worried about that. B for my brush tool, just making it a bit bigger. And I'm not being particularly careful because the natural contours in her body will stay there, okay? I'm not changing anything about the way she looks. A little bit into her face there, okay. And we can duplicate this layer, Control J to duplicate it. Delete the layer mask, Alt click to add a black one. And I'm just gonna press B for my brush tool, X, and color in over her face so that we can see what this does. Double click there. Now notice when I duplicated the layer, the blend if duplicated with it. So I can just connect these two back together. I'm not pressing Alt or holding down anything. Pull it until I'm happy. And then hold down Alt and just pull them apart. And I think it's a little bit heavy or harsh on her face. So I'm just dropping the opacity down. And you can see I haven't done anything extra. I've just been dodging and burning with you guys in this ridiculously long video, so you can actually see real time how this effect or what this effect does to an image. So you can see we've, through dodging and burning only, enhanced her face and her clothes. I think this needs to be just a bit more. There we go. Let's do a quick summary, guys. What this video aimed to teach you is how to use a very cool solid color layer technique where you create a solid color layer for color of your choice or the color that suits your image, or gray, white, or black if you do not want to affect the color of the image. You set that layer to soft light, you go into your blend F sliders, and you hide or show only where you want that layer to show on your image. Using your layer mask, all you need to do is color in roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect, where you want this solid color layer effect. Wow, that is such a mouthful. I need to come up with better names for things. Where you want your solid color layer effect to show through. You can do as many or as few layers as you want. If the layer is a darker layer, it burns the image, i.e. makes it darker. If the layer is a lighter layer, it'll dodge the image, i.e. make it brighter. Guys, I hope that helped you, and if you have any questions, anything you'd like to see in a future video, please do let me know. Drop me a like, send me a comment, say hi, let me know how you're doing wherever you are in the world. I hope you guys have an amazing day, weekend, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.